This man is one of the greatest wrestlers on earth. Olympic gold athlete, multiple heavyweight champion, general manager. Just look at the sheer size of this man's neck. He does not fuck around. He is a gifted athlete in all aspects of his life, but I mean, god dang, look at this thing.
I want a gold medal with a broken freaking neck.
Perc Angle was very quickly pushed in the wrestling world, almost too quickly. He signed with the WWE back in 1998, but he did make his first appearance in 1996. And like I said, very quickly this man rose to stardom. When they called him up to the main roster, he would already start feuding with the likes of The Rock. And I mean, this is a pretty huge deal within 1 year of joining WWE. This man would become the champion, and this is unheard of. But now the big question, why did they push him so fast? It's because this man is tough as nails. But he also made Vince McMahon a lot of money. We all know Vince McMahon loves his money. Greedy, rich bastard.
When were the conversations starting about you winning the world title? Because you won it 10 months in.
Well,
And you beat The Rock.
okay, I didn't hear anything about it until I wrestled The Rock and Triple H in a triple threat match at SummerSlam. And Triple H gave me the pedigree on a table, and the table collapsed before he gave me the pedigree, and I went down and I hit the concrete floor with my head, and I was out. I was out cold, and Triple H couldn't even wake me up, and he said I'm snoring. So the thing is, I was supposed to do that, and I was supposed to pretend I was hurt. I was going to go backstage, and then they were going to bring me back out for the rest of the match.
Stephanie brings you back out.
Yeah, so that was all planned.
Okay.
But I got hurt for real. Now they pull me backstage, and when I went back out there, I didn't know what I was doing. I don't remember what I did. So they called the whole match to me, Triple H and Rock. So whoever I was wrestling in there in the triple threat, they were calling the spots and telling me what was next.
This would eventually lead up to Kurt Angle going in as champion into a 6-man Hell in a Cell match. The only 6-man Hell in a Cell match in existence. I mean, this match honestly does not seem real. If you go to ChatGPT and tell it to make you a dream match, this is the type of shit it would come up with. The match itself was a big success and the crowd loved it. Kurt Angle walking into the match as champion was insane at this point. He wasn't calling the matches during this time, and he was only listening to what the others were telling him to do. But now respectfully, Kurt Angle was still able to pull his own weight. Now it's worth mentioning the bump Rikishi took off the top of the Hell in a Cell. I mean, all the other wrestlers were just watching. Pretty gnarly. Kurt Angle would actually come out on top during the match, and then we would see Stone Cold Steve Austin interfering with his victory celebration, hitting him with the stunner, and that stunner started it all. You see, these two would start feuding, and Kurt was waiting for this moment. He wanted to feud with Stone Cold Steve Austin as soon as he felt he was ready, and he could call some spots during the match as well. Angle and Austin have unmatched chemistry. They were simply amazing together. Whether it be outside the ring or inside the ring, this is one of the best feuds in all of WWE history.
Beat Stone Cold Steve Austin in your hometown not long after 9/11 for the World Championship. I'd love to hear what that meant to you.
Well, you know what? That was my idea.
Oh, really?
I went to Vince. I was only a year and a half in the business, and I went to Vince and I said, Vince, I'm feeling like I should win this title right now because 9/11 just occurred. I'm the Olympic hero. You know, the United States, they need a boost. And, me winning the title for them would be a great idea. He said, well, you need to ask Stone Cold. So I was like, oh, shit. I got to go call Stone Cold now. So I called Steve, and he said, hey, let's do it. And he agreed right away.
Stone Cold Steve Austin, without any hesitation, put Kurt Angle over. He understood the type of talent this man had. Now, these two were pure comedy gold during their backstage segments while they were trying to get others to break character. But once they got into the ring, they were able to put on a 5-star match just about every single time. They would also put on 5-star segments like these. Now, we all know how much Kurt loves his gold medals. Steve Austin would actually steal them and throw them over the bridge. Everybody remembers the famous beer cannon Stone Cold Steve Austin brought out to the ring, right? Well, Kurt Angle would have his own cannon, but it would be replaced with milk instead, because he's an Olympic gold athlete, and we all know how healthy milk is. But in reality, milk does not help pain. Fast forward a couple years later, and Kurt Angle would re-injure his neck. And this would start a very dark time in Kurt Angle's career. Nobody in this world is immune to an addiction.
You know, what was the conversation like?
I
with
knew
the
I was
doctor?
hooked the first time I did it. I broke my neck for the second time, the first time in WWE. That was against Brock Lesnar. A doctor introduces me to painkillers, and
What specifically?
Vicodin, extra strength Vicodin. So they were 10s, not 5s. And the first one I took, I was like, wow, like this woke me up. I feel energized. I don't feel the pain. I feel like I'm invincible. Like that's the feeling I was getting.
It hurts to see our hero like Perc Angle struggling with something so deep. He didn't even look like himself at this point. The painkillers were starting to take over. But this started a different era of Perc Angle. I had a really good career in WWE, but I didn't really catch my stride where I was at my peak at about 7 years into the business, and that's when I went to TNA, Angle claimed, during an appearance on Busted Open Radio. Being honest, yeah, I had a better career in TNA. I had better matches in TNA than I had in WWE, at least more consistently better. So TNA's drug policy was way more lenient back then than WWE's, and Perc Angle was let loose. He really did put his body on the line. The things he did were superhuman, and I'm positive without all the enhancements, this man would not have been doing this. I still question how he got up from some of the things he did in TNA. The fans definitely knew something was up with Perc Angle, but there is no denying that his TNA run was gold.
How do you kind of look back on the TNA run now?
You know, I felt like I just started getting my bearings when I went to TNA. In other words, I matured as a wrestler. You know, it usually takes wrestlers 6 to 8 years to kind of get it.
And this is honestly such a hard thing to believe. Looking back at his WWE run, this man was a force to be reckoned with. Having matches with Shawn Michaels, Undertaker, Lesnar, Eddie Guerrero, and Rey Mysterio to name off a few. He was one of the most underrated mic workers. And this guy can go from one of the funniest performers on the whole roster, who even got Taker to break character, to the wrestling machine within seconds. But Perc Angle swears by his TNA run.
Where the light bulb goes off in your head and you're cruising, and it did, but it did it in TNA. I feel like I had a much better career in TNA than I did in WWE. I did stay there longer too. I stayed there 11 years as opposed to 7 years in WWE, and I really enjoyed it in TNA. I really had a great time there, and I didn't have to work nearly as much. You know, I would do 100 dates a year. I wouldn't have to do 300 a year. It was a lot easier on my body. So I really enjoyed my time with TNA, but unfortunately, a lot of the WWE universe, the fans, didn't get a chance to see it. And that's the sad thing about it.
The only time they remember it is when they say, "Hey, remember Perc Angle?" So, you know, that's one of the things that, you know, I still have to deal with. But I understand that, you know, for the fans, it's more of a term of endearment. You know, how great was Perc Angle? He was awesome. You know, so I know they're not saying it to try to hurt my feelings. Even though
But does it hurt your feelings?
Yeah, but I know they don't mean it.
Yeah.
And for that, I'm okay with, you know, if they say it. I don't want them to say it to my face, but you know, it is what it is.
Does it hurt your feelings because it reminds you of a time you don't want to remember?
It's a time where I was in a dark situation in my life, and that is the part I don't want to remember. All the trouble I got into, you know, the divorce I had, and you know, and just a lot of things that were going on in my life that I don't want to remember anymore.
Perc Angle is a dead name. His legendary TNA run will forever be known as Peak Angle. He did eventually make his way back into the WWE to finish off his career, and he was inducted into the Hall of Fame. Even though we can tell he got older and he did slow down in the ring, we still appreciated his last WWE run. His final match was against Baron Corbin at WrestleMania, and Baron Corbin actually did pull out the victory. Perc Angle pushed him, but he was sad that WWE did not capitalize on Corbin's momentum after this match. From an Olympic gold medalist, to a newcomer, to a champion, to a Hall of Famer. This man deserves all the love in the world from his fans. Thank you, Kurt Angle, for all that you have done for us.